It's freezing outside, you crank your heater expecting warm air, and what comes out is cold or barely warm. You're driving around in a rolling refrigerator, scraping frost off the inside of your windshield with a credit card, and you're already dreading what the shop's gonna charge to fix it. So before you hand anybody $500 or more, listen up, because the truth is, no heat is almost always caused by something cheap and often something you can fix yourself in your own driveway. Today, I'll show you exactly how to figure out which one it is. Here's my promise. I'm gonna walk you through the reasons your car has no heat, starting with the cheapest and most common, and I'll give you a simple hands-on test that tells you in about a minute whether you're looking at a $10 fix or the expensive one. Pay attention to that test because it's a single thing that keeps a shop from selling you a big repair you don't need. Let me start by explaining how your heat actually works, because once you get this, every fix makes sense. Here's the surprising part. Your car's heater doesn't have its own heat source. It steals heat from your engine. As your engine runs, it gets hot and hot coolant circulates through it to carry that heat away. Some of that hot coolant gets routed through a little part behind your dashboard called the heater core. Think of it as a tiny radiator. A fan blows air across that hot heater core, and that warm air is what comes out your vents. So follow the logic. If you have no heat, it almost always means hot coolant isn't getting to that heater core or isn't flowing through it. That's the whole game. Fix the coolant flow, fix your heat. Let me tell you about a woman named Karen who came to me last winter nearly in tears about a quote. Another shop had told her she needed a new heater core, $700, because they'd have to pull her whole dash apart. She came to me for a second opinion before spending that kind of money. I checked her coolant and it was low, with a small air pocket trapped in the system. I topped it off, burped the air out, and her heat came roaring back that same afternoon. Total cost, a jug of coolant. She almost paid $700 for a problem that cost me 20 minutes and a few bucks. That's exactly why I'm making this video, because that story plays out every single winter. Now let me give you that test I promised, because it splits your problem in half instantly. Pop your hood with the engine cool for now. We'll get to the timing in a second, and find where two hoses pass through the firewall, the wall between your engine and your dashboard. Those are your heater core hoses. The coolant goes in one and comes out the other. Here's the test. Get the engine up to normal operating temperature, then very carefully feel those two hoses. If both hoses are hot, good news, coolant is flowing through your heater core just fine, which means your problem is probably a cheap one, like the door that directs the air, not the core itself. But if one hose is hot and the other is cold, or both are cool, that tells you coolant isn't flowing through the core, and now, to look at the cheap causes coming up. That 1 minute check points you straight at the answer, and it's the same trick a good mechanic uses first. Just be careful those hoses and the coolant get hot, so use a rag and don't grab them barehanded once the engine's warm. So let's go through the causes, cheapest first. Cause number one, and it's the most common by far, low coolant. Remember, your heat comes from hot coolant, so if your coolant is low, there simply isn't enough of it to reach and fill that heater core, and you get cold air blowing at you. Checking it is easy and free. With the engine completely cool, and this is important, never open a hot cooling system because it's pressurized and can spray scalding coolant several feet and give you a serious burn. Look at your coolant reservoir, the plastic tank under the hood with the min and max lines. If it's sitting below that minimum line, top it off with the correct coolant for your car up to the line, and there's a very real chance your heat comes right back. But here's the honest part, and it's important. Your cooling system is sealed, so if it's low, you've probably got a small leak somewhere. Take a quick look around for green, orange, or pink puddles under the car, or a sweet smell, which are signs of a coolant leak. Topping it off gets your heat back and buys you time. But keep an eye on that level and get the leak found before low coolant leaves you stranded with an overheating engine, because the same low coolant that kills your heat can cook your engine if it drops far enough. Cause number two is sneaky, and it fools even some mechanics. An air pocket trapped in your cooling system. When air gets trapped in the lines, which happens a lot after a coolant leak, or after someone changed the coolant and didn't do it right, that air bubble can sit right in the heater core and block the coolant from flowing through it. Everything else works, your engine's fine, your coolant might even look full, but you get no heat because there's an air bubble sitting in the way, exactly like Karen's car. The fix is free. It's called burping or bleeding the system, and it just means getting that trapped air out. On many cars, you let the engine warm up with the radiator cap off and the heater turn to full hot, And as the coolant circulates and the thermostat opens, the air works its way up and out, and you top off the coolant as the level drops. Some cars have a specific bleed valve or bleeder screw that makes it even easier. Look up the exact burping procedure for your specific car, because it's genuinely often the difference between cold air and toasty heat for the price of absolutely nothing. This one causes more unnecessary heater core replacements than almost anything else. Real quick before I give you the rest, one thing, because it'll save you more than any single tip in this video. Everything I teach on this channel, every fix, every trick, every shop scam, I put into one guide called Don't Get Fleeced, the complete playbook. Read your own check engine codes, decode every dashboard light, know which recommended services are real and which are pure padding, and walk into any shop already knowing exactly what your car needs and what it should cost. It's one PDF. It costs less than a single diagnostic fee. And it lives on your phone, so it's right there in your pocket in the parking lot when a mechanic hands you a number. If you're tired of feeling like an easy target, this is how you stop being one. Links in the description and the pinned comment. Grab it, then let's finish getting your heat back. Cause number 3, a thermostat stuck open. Your thermostat is a little valve that holds coolant inside the engine until it warms up so the engine can reach its proper operating temperature. But if that thermostat gets stuck in the open position, coolant just flows constantly and your engine never fully warms up, which means there's no real heat for the heater to borrow in the first place. Here's the telltale sign, and it's a good one. Look at your temperature gauge as you drive. If your engine temperature gauge never climbs to its normal middle position and just stays down near cold no matter how long you've been driving, that's a textbook stuck open thermostat. You'll often also notice your heat is lukewarm when you're cruising on the highway, but disappears completely when you slow down or idle. The good news is a thermostat is a cheap part, usually $20 to $40, and on a lot of cars, it's a straightforward afternoon replacement. So if your gauge won't come up to temperature and you've got weak or no heat, that's very likely your culprit, and it's a cheap one. Cause number 4, a clogged heater core. Remember that little radiator behind your dash? Over the years, it can get clogged up inside with rust, sediment, and gunk from old neglected coolant, so hot coolant just can't flow through it anymore. This is where that 2-hose test earns its keep. If one hose is hot and the other one's cold, that clog is your problem because coolant's going in but not making it all the way through. The good news is you can often fix this yourself before jumping to the expensive route. You flush the heater core, you disconnect those 2 heater hoses, and you run water through the core with a garden hose, sometimes backwards, which we call a back flush, to push all that built up gunk out the other side. People flush out years of black sludge this way and get their heat roaring back for the cost of nothing but a little time and a garden hose. It is absolutely worth trying before you let anyone quote you the big job. And that big job is cause number 5, the expensive one, so you know when it's actually real. Replacing the heater core itself. If it's so clogged or so leaky that flushing won't save it, the core has to come out, and here's why it's pricey. That heater core is buried deep behind your entire dashboard, so replacing it means a shop has to tear apart half your dash to reach it. The part itself is often cheap, 40 or 50 bucks, but the labor is brutal, sometimes 10 hours of work, and that's where your $500, $600, sometimes $800 goes. So how do you know it's genuinely the core and not something cheaper? The signs of a failing heater core are specific. A sweet, syrupy smell inside the car, a greasy or foggy film that keeps building up on the inside of your windshield, or damp, wet carpet on the front passenger floor. Those mean the core is leaking coolant inside your cabin. If you've got those symptoms, along with no heat, the core may truly need replacing. But notice you only land here after ruling out the cheap coolant, air pocket, and thermostat causes first. That's the whole point of this channel. You never ever start at the expensive answer. Now let me clear up one more thing, because people confuse it all the time. Everything we just covered is for when you're getting cold air, plenty of airflow, it's just not warm. But if you're getting almost no air at all coming out of the vents, that's a completely different problem. That's usually your blower motor, the fan itself, or its resistor going bad. A classic sign of that is when your fan only works on the highest setting and nothing lower. So sort out which one you've got first. No warm air is a coolant and heater core issue, while no air at all is a fan issue. 2 different problems, 2 different fixes, and knowing which is which saves you from chasing the wrong thing. Let me tie it all together so it sticks. When you've got cold air instead of heat, first check your coolant level when the engine's cold and top it off, because low coolant is the #1 cause. Second, if it's still cold, burp the air out of the system, because a trapped air pocket blocks the heater core and it's free to fix. Third, Watch your temperature gauge. If it never warms up, replace the cheap thermostat. Fourth, feel those two heater hoses. If one's hot and one's cold, flush the clogged heater core yourself before paying for a new one. And if both hoses are hot but you still get cold air, it's the blend door directing the air wrong, often just a reset away. Only if the core is truly leaking or beyond flushing is it the big expensive job, and now you'll know the difference before anyone tells you. And here's a quick word on prevention so you never end up here again. The number one thing that clogs a heater core and rusts up your cooling system is old, neglected coolant. Coolant doesn't last forever. It breaks down and turns acidic over the years. So changing your coolant on your car's recommended schedule is cheap insurance that keeps your heater core clean, your heat strong, and your whole cooling system healthy. A little maintenance now beats a dashboard teardown later. Here's the honest bottom line. Nobody should pay $500, $600, $700 for a heater core replacement without first checking a low coolant level, an air pocket, and a stuck thermostat, because one of those cheap things is the answer far more often than not, just like it was for Karen. The most expensive repair in this whole video is the last thing you should look at, not the first. Run through the cheap causes, use that 2-hose test, and you'll either fix your heat for almost nothing or walk into the shop knowing exactly what's wrong so nobody sells you a teardown you never needed. And remember, the full guide, Don't Get Fleeced, is in the description and the pinned comment if you want every money-saving fix like this for your whole car in one place. Before you go, hit that like button. If this gave you a plan to get your heat back without a huge bill, it genuinely helps this reach more drivers freezing in their cars right now. And drop me 2 things in the comments. First, is your car blowing cold? And does your temperature gauge come up to normal or stay low? Tell me, and I'll help you narrow it down. Second, what do you want next? Should I show you how to flush a heater core step by step, or how to burp your cooling system the right way? You tell me, I'll make it. And subscribe, because I've got a whole garage full of these coming. The cheap fixes, the honest tests, and the truth the dealership will never tell you. Thanks for trusting me, and thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next one.